Hey guys, we are back for the finale of Lovecraft Country, Season 1, Episode 10, Full Circle. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to your girl. I'm going to get right into it. Actually, nothing really big, like the big juicy stuff didn't happen until I swear like the last like 15-20 minutes of the episode. So I'm going to try to breeze through this as fast as I can. So it starts off pretty much they're getting back from, you know, when they was trying to get the thing for little baby Diana, get the book in Tulsa. So they're coming back from there. They back in Chicago. They're trying to do. They got the book of names. Tick is saying the spell or whatnot which is to open the book of names, and then the book actually does open when he says the spell or whatnot, and then on the book shows the little marking that Tick and his cousin have. So as he says the spell or whatnot, he passes out, and so does Letty. When he passes out, it takes him to that tunnel with the fire with Hannah, and then Hannah finally says something to him, and she says the answer is in his blood. That's what she tells him, and then he like jumps and he goes to being in the house again, but still in like the another like underworld, not underworld, but in another world with like it's all red and stuff. And Letty jumps back and goes to the house where Tick's ancestor is too, and she tells her that her baby, Letty's baby, little baby George, brought her there or whatnot. So pretty much in this whole sequence, and then Tick, once he's brought back to the house, his mom appears and he tells his mom what's going on, and then they talk about how Hannah made that portion or whatever little underworld or other afterworld for all of his ancestors to be in and to protect them, and the mark that he has is for so people can't locate them or whatever, to come after her family, like so they can't, like white people or anybody in the order can't come after them, but I mean they still found them. But anyway, so yeah, so that's what Hannah did, and Hannah was like just explaining of how she thought that magic was bad or whatnot, but she learned how to harvest her magic and do good things with it, and how and then she goes on to say that like Tick is going to, well no, she don't say that when Tick talking to his mama and whatnot, she like, my mom want to die because Christina trying to sacrifice him. He like she says that she's going to save them all, because he asked her how can he help and save Diana, but she like, no, he gonna save everybody, not just Diana. And I'm like, that's kind of cryptic, how y'all gonna do that? But anyway, through all that jump, y'all, this is just going, I'm breezing through it. They do a little incantation or a spell over the bed where Diana would be in the real world, and they doing this little spell, and then it kind of forms to her body or whatnot. And then as they're doing that in the real world, Hippolyta and Montrose are trying to wake Tick and Letty up because they don't know what the hell is going on. And as they're doing that, Diana, she still looked like that little them little creature things. And then as they're doing the incantation, it starts to go away. And then as it's going away, Tick and Letty wake up after they have their little visit to the afterworld, whatever they was at, with the ancestors. And Diana wakes up too, but her arm is still messed up. I'm like, damn, I guess she was cursed for too long, even though Christina did the reversal. It's still fucked up. Her arm is still just a consequence of it. So her poor little baby arm just all looking decrepit and messed up and deteriorated. I'm like, oh hell no, what we gonna do about her arm? But I mean, thank goodness Jesus she alive, but damn, her arm fucked up. That little girl didn't deserve that. So from there, they're done with that. So they're trying to figure out how they're gonna go after Christina or whatnot, and stop her from doing this damn autumnal thing and sacrificing Tick. And they said pretty much they need to make a plan to take Christina's powers and to bind her powers. They need to do something so she can't do the shit on Tick. So from there, they Tick and whatnot. Hold on. Tick and I'm sorry, y'all just had a brain fart. Tick and Letty, they go on a whole nother little quick adventure down, into her basement, and then from the base to that like crazy elevator that take them to that like tomb place where what's the name, where they got the where they were going to look for that siren and all that stuff. When they did that whole episode of that, the elevator take them all the way down there to the caves and all that. But before they got on the elevator to do all that, he goes down to the basement, and you can see like under in the basement, like in a crawl space or something, he goes and he puts his hand, and you hear that little turkey thing. And I'm like, wait, did they keep that monster that saved them? Is that just their pet now? What the fuck are they feeding it? We don't see it, but we hear. And I'm like, we know what them little things sound like. Sorry, y'all, they sound like turkeys to me. So I'm like, they had that monster in the basement this entire time? Okay, that's weird. And then they get in the elevator. They go down to the little ritual tomb thing place that takes them like far as hell away from Chicago. Where the fuck was that at? In St. Louis or something? I forgot where it was. But yeah, y'all know where all the water and stuff, and they swam through, and then Tick had to put his arm through. enough. So they're in there, and then they're putting down a salt thing, and then they're doing a protection spell, or some type of, they're getting ready to do a spell, and as they're, with the book of names, and as they're doing this spell, well, the spell that they're doing, all of a sudden it brings Titus, Braithwaite, and he looking like, who the fuck are y'all? Like, because he see black folks, he like, who the fuck are you? And they're doing this incantation, and Tick don't say nothing, but Letty's like, he's your blood ancestor or bloodline or something. And then as they're still chanting, Hannah appears too, and then I'm like, oh shit, baby mama, baby daddy drama. And then she was like, he gonna finish, and he's gonna finish or make sure that you and your people aren't able to do anything or something. And he was like, you niggas or something. He's trying to say something like, you ungrateful nigga, I treated you better than. I'm like, motherfucker. And I'm like, baby daddies, man. I was just like, he was coming to her throat. And then as he's doing that, he kind of vanishes, and then he appears to in the street, and then it turns out he appears right in front of where Christina and Ruby, they're in a car driving somewhere, who cares. And then they get into a car accident, but Christina, she gets out the car and she check on Ruby first because that's bae, and then she turn around and she see that that's Titus Braithwaite or whatnot, and then she's like, and then he goes, those niggas have the book. And then it goes away. I was like, shit, no, he told him. Like, we don't want Christina to know, because if she know, then she gonna be ahead of the game, knowing that, well, she see Titus, she know that something is going on. So as they're doing the chanting and incantation and stuff, they bring him back, and as they're bringing him back, they didn't just bring him back, they brought back Hannah, they brought back his mama, and they brought back the other cousin, and they all chanting around him because they're trying to attack him and get him into, because they have to bring him back in flesh. And as they're doing that, they finally are able to, Tick is able to attack him, and he stabbed him, and I thought he was about to cut his heart out, but no, he just cut a piece of his flesh and his chest out, and then they get rid of him, and then they send all the ghosts back. And I'm like, that was so weird. And I didn't get what the purpose of that was for at first. And then, but I mean, everything that they do, all these spells, you need, like, you know, they're like blood curses, and you need the blood of the certain person. But I guess he needed like pure blood from sorry y'all, I'm getting over a cold, don't worry, it's not, I didn't have COVID, no fever, nothing like that, but I had like a little sinus thing going on, so that's why I sound like this. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but I'm cool, just sound a little jacked right now. And as they did that, they need the, you know, Titus's blood for that, so I guess they needed his pure blood, and they couldn't use Tick's blood for it because he's like, it's not his pure blood. So from there, what else happened? Oh yeah, they sent all the ghosts and ancestors back. Hold on. So we see, it jumps to after you know, Diana is just fine and everything. It jumps to Diana and Hippolyta. Diana's in the bed or whatnot, and Hippolyta is like, oh baby, I'm just so happy you're okay. And she was like, mama, where were you? You was gone, and all hell broke loose, and it's enough she done lost her father, and you was just gone. She was like, baby, I was in another world, and I was a place where time and this, and then I was having my own adventures even more than your father. She low key not trying to be certain type of way. I'm glad that she found herself and everything. And then she's like, yeah, I went on all these adventures, and then I had to name myself, and then finally I named myself your mother, and that's what brought me back here. And I'm like, yeah, girl, you sound really excited and hype about your adventures and shit, but your daughter was going through it. She just lost her father. Your daughter ain't trying to hear that. Like, kids ain't trying to hear that she was out dancing with where was she, in Paris and shit, having a good old merry time and doing having the time of her life and off in space and all that. She ain't trying to hear that. Look at her arm. What the fuck she supposed to do with that? And then she was like, nah, she ain't trying to hear that. Like, I needed you. And she's like, if had I known that this was going on with you, then I would have been came back. I'm like, girl, it don't matter. That is your child. You was gone for a long time. But whatever. And Diana ain't trying to hear it either. She was like, look at my arm. Look at this. No, she didn't say that. But I would have been like that. Like, oh my God, look at my arm. What am I supposed to do? But anyway, she was like, I'm sorry, baby. I'm going to make this up to you or whatever. And I'm like, girl, unless you got another arm, I ain't trying to hear it. But anyway, then it jumps to Tick, Letty, and Montrose. They downstairs in the shop or whatever, trying to figure out, getting ready to go to getting stuff ready because the autumnal equinox is coming, and they like, man, we need a piece of Christina to even bind her and to kick this spell off for anything and to take her powers. How we gonna get that? Letty's like, man, we just need to use Ruby, and she right, because Ruby is bae, and that's the only person that can get close to her, like, at all. Like, so. And Montrose was like, nah, hell no, we can't ask Ruby because we can't trust her. She been with, like, Ruby really fucks with her like that, so you can't she not gonna help us. And she's like, nah, it's my sister, I'm gonna try. They ain't got no other choice but to try, so it was what it was. And as they're talking about that, they was like, well, it's just down to us three. Hippolyta come downstairs. She was like, nah, it's me too. I'm like, yeah, that shit affected her with music, with all this magic shit. She done lost her husband, now her daughter done lost the arm. Like, girl, you better come in and pull through for your family. Plus, I'm like, why wouldn't y'all think she was gonna help? And as she come down, fucking Christina pulls up because she did get that visit from her ancestors, from the ancestors too, from Titus, talking about some them niggas got the book, so she definitely knew what the fuck he was talking about. So she goes to Tick like, hey, can I holler at you real quick? And he was like, girl, whatever you got to say to me, you can say it in front of everybody here. And then she was like, this was never about we're family. This is never about us feuding and everything. I'm not against you and all this and everything. I'm not trying to do this. And then Montrose was like, bitch, please, you trying to kill him. And she was like, well, if there was any other way that I could cast my spell or whatever without having to sacrifice him, I would. But now, since you got the book of names, just go ahead and run me that book, and then I promise you that I won't bother you or your family anymore or whatnot. And Tick was like, bitch, hell no. I wouldn't trust her either. Like, ain't nobody just gonna hand you over the book. Nah, who you look stupid. Nah. So he was like, I ain't give you nothing. So Christina was like big mad after that, and she left, and then she whispered some little witchcraft fucking spell real quick, and then Letty's like, and then that bitch took her mark of Cain off of her, which is her invulnerability. I'm like, damn, Letty, you have to be careful. You can't be walking through fires no more because you regular human now. Well, she was human before, but you're not invulnerable anymore. I'm like, fuck. So from there, they excuse me. From there, what else happened? Oh, they go back to the Winchester house, and real quick, as we see them going to the Winchester house, the white people next door are now the black people across the street next door. So I guess since they was living there, white folks left, and now black people are moving. I'm like, okay, more power to the people. Black folks on the north side migrating. Thank y'all for coming, because now I'm a black person on the north side too. Whoop whoop. No, anyway, so. But no, for real though. But yeah, so we see some new neighbors and stuff, and they waving like, hey y'all, but I'm like, they got the problems. They can't be like bringing y'all over a no welcome basket. They got real problems right now. So as they get over there, Tig gets on the phone and he's like, "Oh, let me talk to the Drake Hotel." And I'm like, "Who he calling him?" Then I had to think about it. I'm like, "Is he calling his old bae?" He definitely was. So he called old bae, and he contacted her, and then he meets up with her or whatnot. I'm like, "Don't be giving her no yin yang what's her name is Tig, because you treated her and kicked her out of the house last time and you was being rude. She didn't do nothing but try to come there and help you." Okay, and then that's what he did. He came to correct her, and he was like, "I'm sorry. The what we had back then or whatnot, it was real, and I just didn't want to make it. I just wanted to erase everything from that because of, like, she saw his death and everything." He's like, "I just wanted, if I just acted like none of it was true, then that mean, like, your vision wasn't true either." I was like, "You was just mad because she stuck her tail up your tail. Don't be hating." But anyway, so he was just a little bit touched because he got some stuff in his holes and stuff, and he was in love with her. I'm like, "Don't try to play her because you got a baby mama now. You was all up with that girl and in love, and you was trying to move her or stay in Korea and all that stuff." And then he apologized, and he was like, "Had it not been for you, thank you for coming, out here for me, trying to help me." And then she told him that she saw the shaman and all that, and what the shaman told her and everything. She was like, the dark, and she gonna see more death and all this before her purpose is happen. And then she was like, "Maybe that I actually contacted you for myself because not too long ago her mama died." I'm like, "Oh." Even though that's that girl mama, but she was like that her mom, the lady wouldn't, the mama wouldn't accept her because she wanted her daughter back, and she was like, she actually grew to love me and everything, and we were family and all that. And then after, she's the only, her and Tick were the only one that actually cared about her. And she's like, after she died, she's just like, "I just felt like empty and all this, and all the emotions went away, and I just thought that was like, it was messing with her humanity." And he explains to her like, "No, that is being human, where you feel like nothingness, and you just going through grief, you'll be all right." And he tells her that she fam bam, and they cool now, and it's all to the good. So that's what happened with that. Excuse me, y'all. So from there, what else happened? We see Ruby and Letty. Ruby and Letty are at their mama grave or whatnot, and then Letty finally tells Ruby why she did not come to her mother's funeral. She finally admits and says that she was in jail when her mom's funeral was taking place. And then Ruby was like, "Oh, hell no." And then she was like, Letty was like, "I'm kind of happy that I was, because I just still don't know if I would have been able to make it there and all this and all that, blah, blah, blah." But then Ruby was telling her, like, "Regardless, girl, no matter what, that's still our mama." Like, what her name, Eloise, whatever. She was a lot of things, but she was still our mama. It's our family. And then she was like, "That's the thing I've learned." Letty's talking about something. "That's the thing I learned, that family isn't an obligation, it's a choice," and all this other stuff. And she started having this whole long spiel about family and how it's so important for family, and Boo Boo laid it on real thick. But then at the end of what she said, she's gonna sit there and say, she shows her the book of names, and she tells her that they need Christina's blood or something to bind her powers and all that. If not, she's gonna kill Tick. And I'm like, see, you went about it the wrong way, because you always sit there and try to act like you so for her and so down with her, but then you ask her for something, and then that make you seem like you shady. And Ruby caught on real fast, and she was like, "You may think that this may sound different to you, and you think that you come to me talking about, oh, you need my sister, but you only need your sister. You only want to play the sister card and say that you need me when you need something. You only want to be my sister when you need something." And I felt that so hard, because I got a lot of family like that. Like, "Oh, we this and this and this and this. You gotta stick together." When you want something from me, where was you at when this was going down with me, though? Like, I totally felt her on that. And I'm like, yeah, you can't just be sitting there picking shoes like, anyway, I don't want to get too hard on it, but Ruby wasn't going for it, and she walked away on her ass, because she was like, "This may seem like a different thing to you, but this is the same shit you've been pulling on me our whole life. You've been saying the same shit and singing the same tune this whole time, and it's all around you. When it's convenient for you, that's when you want to be down in family." And then she walks away, as she should, because I would too. But Lady was like, "Wait, you don't know everything." And then we don't hear that. It just switches off and goes to who it go to? it jumps to Diana. But another thing that I would have been mad about Letty for is because Ruby already asked Christina not to hurt Letty. So I mean, she looking out for her family. Like, she not looking out for your baby daddy, and you mad about that. It's different. Because I mean, some people, I'll ride for you as my family, but that's your baby daddy. I don't give no fuck about you. But she like, well, I guess if you care about your nephew, you'll help his father too. But like, sometimes it don't work. It don't rock like that. But anyway, jump into Diana, and she's sitting there. She looking all sad. She got a sling on her little decrepit arm and stuff. And all of a sudden, somebody slips a book under her door, and it's Hippolyta. She slips that under her door, and she was like, "How did you?" It's a comic that Hippolyta made. I'm gonna keep doing it like that. And she's like, "How did you learn how to draw like this?" She was like, "Oh, I was somewhere so and so, because you know, Hippolyta, excuse me, been on all these adventures, and she got all these new talents and shit. She came back. She was in Magic City, where the talents came back and evolved. So." She's telling Diana, like, yeah, I could teach you how to draw like that too. But she was like, how am I draw? I want my arm like this. And then she was like, baby, time is just people see time as this, but this is just a moment, and this too shall pass, and blah blah blah. She just ran all this game on her and tell her that everything gonna be all right. And she was like, I promise you, you will draw again. I'm like, okay, Hippolyta, you know all this super futuristic, Afro-futuristic stuff. Go ahead with it. And then she tells her that, she walks her into this room, and she was like, come over here with me. And then she shows her something, but we don't see what it is. But Diana seems very happy about it. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe she is telling the truth, or not that she was lying. But so maybe she is making up for the fact that, you know, she lost her arm. So from there, we see Ruby and Christina. Christina is down in her basement, you know, trying to work on her spell or whatnot. Ruby come in and like, what you been doing down here all day, baby? Dang, you ain't spend no time with me. You ain't turned into William or nothing. Blew this back out, nothing. But and then she was like, you know, I'm just trying to get everything ready for the autumnal equinox and everything. She's like, oh, and then she, you know, she just lets Ruby see everything. She don't give a fuck. She's like, all right, you can look if you want to. And then she explains her, like, you know, the intent and sacrifice and time and position, it all has to align and everything. That's why she has to do it the autumnal equinox time. And then she was like, oh, then she was telling her, like, yeah, everything has to be a certain way. Just like when I did the thing with William, when he died, I had to actually do his rebirth at the same time when I did his spell, and I also had to use my own blood. And she was like, you don't say. I was like, Ruby, go, you sit here, you looking a little bit too inquisitive. Like, Christina in the basement all this time, and you don't ever be that inquisitive about what you're doing. Even though that you said that she was gonna teach you magic, you didn't seem like you was really all trying to learn a whole bunch of magic, because Christina be down there all the goddamn time, and you already said that she just be down there and you be doing whatever the fuck Ruby does all day. I don't know, picking out new outfits, I don't know. Excuse me. So from there, Christina even kind of had to acted like she had a little remorse. She was like, well, I just hope that everything works. And then Ruby's like, it's gonna work, don't worry, baby. She didn't say it like that. And she was like, well, if it doesn't work, then I will have killed off the only other family that I have. I'm like, yeah, bitch, is it worth that much to be immortal and all this other stuff? You can't find no other way to go about this than to kill your only relative. I know it's Tick and he black, and I mean, she ain't racist, not really. She more a powerist. She's just about power. She don't give a fuck what color you are. She was like, I would have killed off my only family. And I'm like, girl, your priorities are fucked up. And I'm like, her father didn't love her, and then she got daddy issues, and that shows it, because a lot of this is out of spite, just to show that she could do what the men can do. And from there, they have a little tender moment, and then they start kissing. And I'm like, okay, so is y'all lesbianing or not? Like, y'all lesbians now? You don't want to wait till she's switching to William, or is y'all just cool with that too? So even Christina was like, wait, have you done this before? And Ruby was like, nah. And then they proceed to kiss. So I assume they went to fucking in as they were or whatnot. So I'm like, okay, get it in then. So from there, we see Tick and Letty, and they are they got on like some gowns, or not gowns, like some puffy things, like, you know, they about to get baptized. So I guess Letty asked Tick to go ahead and get baptized, just because, you know, the baby coming and she don't know what's gonna happen. And then they have this little tender moment, talk about faith, and she's like, he like, well, you ain't got your mark no more, because Christina took it. She was like, God got me, so don't worry about it, boo, we gonna do this. So that's what had happened, and it's like, we gotta have faith. And then they kissed, and then boom, that was that scene. So so from there, they all back downstairs at George's, well, Hippolyta and them shop, and they getting everything ready. They even got little Jun Yi or whatever, she down there too, his little boo bae, Korean bae down there. I'm like, okay, so she part of the family. He said she was family now, so I guess she with them now too. So they all getting ready to get to go down to Arnhem. And as they're packing up to go down to Arnhem, all of a sudden Ruby shows up, and she's like, Letty, wait. And then she gives her the vial. She's like, I got it. For Christina's potion of blood or whatnot. And I'm like, okay, come through, family. So Ruby come down there, and then she go with them too. So from there, it jumps, and they have like this cute little sing-along car ride down to Arnhem, and that was cute. I ain't gonna get into detail. That's just, they had a nice little sing-along car ride. Excuse me, y'all. Once they get to Arnhem, Tick and Montrose are off on their own, and they're in the woods, and they're doing pouring salt down and doing some type of little spell or whatnot. And Tick eats the piece of what's his name? Tick eats the piece of Titus. I don't know, because Tick and Atticus, I keep switching them names in my head. So his ancestor Titus, that's what he needed. He cut him off. I'm like, you ain't gonna cook it or nothing first, like some jerky or something? But I know it ain't about that. But he ate the piece or whatnot of him, and he drank the Christina blood or whatnot. And then he goes on his merry way, heads over to the Titus's lodge where the ceremony to begin. So he walks over there, and Montrose is like, and then they say a thing first, and then Montrose is like, you know, I see you on the other side, son. He goes over in there, and then all them, you know, weird ass townspeople from Arnhem come out of nowhere. I guess they like, it's like Christina, they mayor or something, because they be coming out and doing all her bidding and stuff. There's some weird ass people. But anyway, so yeah, so they go and they get Tick ready, and they strap his ass to the thing and all that. So as that's going on, we see, what else happened? We see Letty, and Ruby. Letty and Ruby are putting up symbols of protection or some shit in that big ass dungeonist tower thing that Montrose was locked up in the dungeon part of. They putting all these incantations and stuff on the walls, and then they was about to be done and leave. All of a sudden, Ruby, she's looking out to the side, and then Letty was like, "What's wrong?" And she was like, "No, what happens if Christina casts the spell at a different time?" And then she was like, "Oh no, she's not gonna do it at a different time, because it has to be, you know, something about the witching hour or whatnot." And then Letty was just still a little off, and she was like, "You know what? I'm so happy that you agreed to help me at Mama's Mama grave or whatnot." And then she was like, "Yeah, that's what family's for." And at that moment, Letty realized that was not no motherfucking Ruby she was talking to, because Ruby told her ass no. Christina is the person that she is talking to at this. I was like, damn, did she kill Ruby? And she found out. And then I'm just gonna go through this part with her and her, and I'm like, damn, poor Ruby, what the fuck happened? Because Ruby said no. So I'm like, oh, if she got a spell to turn herself into Ruby, that means that she either took some of Ruby's blood or killed Ruby or did something to Ruby. And she was like, what did you do to my sister? And all of a sudden, all hell break loose, and they start to fighting, gets to boxing. And simultaneously, as that's happening, Tick is getting placed on the thing and getting ready, and Hippolyta, Montrose, and Korean bae, they were doing something else to help as well. And then all the townspeople come and start attacking them, and they fighting and shit, and stabbing and murdering and killing each other and all that, and they just fighting all the townsfolk, and it's just like all hell breaking loose. And then the fight between Letty and fake Ruby / Christina or whatnot, like Ruby / Christina was whooping her ass. I mean, Letty was giving her a little bit of go. I'm like, girl, you gonna lose your baby fighting with her like that? And then Christina slash Ruby almost fell out of down to her death, but she didn't, and then she picked herself back up, and Letty was fighting, boom boom boom, trying to give her all she could, but fucking Christina slash fake Ruby excuse me, had pushed, but she picked her up and she had pushed her ass out of that damn tower, and Letty falls to her death. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? So as that's happening, Tick is getting prepared for the spell to happen, so he's tied up, and as he's tied up, Christina comes out of nowhere, and you see Christina come, and then the townspeople come with Hippolyta, Montrose, and Korea Bay. So he like, where's Letty? Where's Letty? You know, where is she? Where is she? And then they flip over to Letty, and she's sitting there just lying there dead. I'm like, oh Lord, this is not how this is gonna go. It's only like 10 minutes of the show left, or 5 minutes left of the show, or 10 minutes, whatever, of the show left. This is this real? I'm thinking like, is somebody gonna come back on time, or like, what is going on? This don't sound right. So I'm like, and then shit just keeps playing on from here. And Tick's like, oh my God, where's Letty? So he's come in his mind like, oh my God, he didn't kill her. And then Christina goes and says like, your little plan to use my blood and everything would have worked if you wouldn't have used Ruby to help you. And I'm like, damn, because she tells Letty that like she caught Ruby trying to help her. So I'm like, damn, your sister died trying to be your sister, even though she was mad. Because Ruby one of them people, like, she'll tell your ass off and be mad and strut up, but she's still gonna help you, and that's pretty much what she was gonna do. And Christina caught her ass and kill her ass. I'm like, damn. So from there, I'm like, oh shit, is this bitch really gonna be able to do this? So she gets to casting her spell. She gets to casting her spell. She gets through all excuse me, y'all. She gets through the whole spell and all that. I'm like, what? Somebody help, somebody do something. And she done sliced and diced in Tick's wrist and stuff, and got blood all over her. Like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, somebody help him. Somebody. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is not how this should be going down. And as it's going down, all of a sudden we see flashes of stuff that happened while that we didn't see that happened leading up until this point. We saw Tick give a letter to Montrose to Hippolyta. We see Christina catching Ruby. We see a whole bunch of different flashes of shit happening. And then we see and then all of a sudden, as that's going down, we see Letty wake up, and I'm like, how she wake up falling from that big ass tower? But then it shows in one of the flashes, it shows Ruby slash Christina puts the mark of Cain back on her. So she did keep her promise to her baby, Ruby, the real Ruby. She kept her promise. She didn't kill her sister. So she protected her in the end. And then Letty came back up, and she's like, oh my God, she's too late because Christina's already cast the spell. And then as his last breath and his last little thoughts, he's sitting there, he sees Letty run up, and then he's like dying, and she's like, I love you. And out of nowhere, Letty just starts chanting the spell anyway. Like, she don't care. She don't care if he already dead or dying, and if Christina already finished her spell. She just constantly just saying the incantation over and over. She just saying, and Christina was like, just give it up. It's too late. He already did. I'm immortal. And then Letty stabs her, and I'm like, that ain't gonna do nothing, girl. You need more than that. So, and then even Christina was like, that's not gonna help you because I'm immortal at this moment. And then it shows Christina's healing up as she does that. And as that's all going on, Hippolyta, or I think Hippolyta or somebody says to Korea Bay, like, in order for her binding to bind her powers and stuff, all of them have to be tied by blood, and they have to have a part of each other touching or whatnot. And that's where Korea Bay could shine at this moment. I guess, I don't know if he planned this all out, because it starts flashing to everything that was going on behind the scenes that we don't see as the audience. And so what Korea Bay does, she runs into, because this whole time as the spell's going on, like this big dark ass cloud and like whirlwind of shit is happening that's attached to Tick and attached to like the earth and shit. and attached to Christina, and she jumps into that, and she attaches herself to Tick, and she puts a whole, like, with one of her tails, she attaches herself to Tick, and she attaches herself to Christina, as Letty is saying the incantation to bind Christina. Sorry, y'all, I should have had some water with me. So I'm like, oh shit, is this gonna work? Is it too late or what? Because Christina was like, it's too late. She was giving off real big D energy at that moment. And I'm like, no, since they still touching, maybe they can throw the spell off. So as that was going on, it turns out it wasn't too late. I was like, thank goodness. Because I'm like, damn, this bitch just gonna win, and that's just gonna be the end of it. So as that's happening, what else happened in that instant? Oh yeah, that's pretty much all that happened, because I mean, she wasn't able to fulfill the thing, and then all of a sudden it jumps to Christina is got a whole bunch of bricks and shit, or like pieces of the house collapsed on her, so she's just sitting there like, help me, or whatever. And as all that was going on, little Diana was not there. Little Diana was in the middle of the woods by herself in the car, reading the Lovecraft Country book or whatnot, by her cousin George, who's not born yet, and she's reading that, because I was like, yeah, wouldn't the book not exist anymore if Letty was truly dead? And it was a lot of stuff that was happening all simultaneously, and you don't get it till like later and shit. So yeah. And as she in there, all of a sudden she hear that little turkey creature go. I was like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah, why would they leave her in the middle of the woods in the night when they know them vampire ass things be down there? She ain't got no protection spell on her. So then as she was in the car, one of them turkey crazy vampire things came and was like fucked up Woody and tried to get into the car. And as it's trying to get into the car, the black one comes out, Tick's pet one that was in the basement comes and kills it and protects Diana. So that happens. So then at the very, very, very end, Tick is still dead. None of this did not bring him back, because she sliced his fucking wrist open and drained him of his blood. And then Macho come, because it looked like Machos was dead too from the fight, because they brought him in on a stretcher or whatnot. But then all of a sudden Machos gets up, and he's like trying to wake up Tick, like, come on Tick, it's done, we gonna go home, let's go. And then Hippolyta walks up to Montrose and was like, Tick told me to give you this to you. And again, we saw all this stuff in flashes, because Tick knew that even if he saved everybody, he was still destined to die. There was like no way around him not dying in this situation. Everybody else will be saved, but he still was going to die. So that's pretty much what happened. So he even had, and in the letter he's saying like, Dad, I know, I'm sorry that I kept this last secret from you, but I'm depending on you to be the father that you wanted to be to me, to my little baby George, be a great grandfather, teach him this and teach him that. And I'm like, damn, is Tick dead for real? At this point, it looks like he is dead for real, or whatnot. And then all of a sudden, they all get up, and there's like, they carrying Tick's body back to the car and shit. And I'm like, oh my God, so Tick is dead for real at this point in the show. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck the next season is gonna be like, because if Tick dead, he a main character. I mean, main characters don't mean shit, especially like in like the world of Game of Thrones, so he might be dead, I don't know. But and in that part, they're like all sad and crying and shit, and they all going back to the car with Tick's body. And as that's happening, it jumps over, and Christina is still just under a whole bunch of cobblestones of brick and shit, and she's just laying there trying to do a spell, and they bind to her power, so I don't think she can do anything at this point to help herself. And then she's like saying all these spells and shit, and then she's like, help, and then what's the name? All of a sudden, little baby Diana comes with the Tick's monster pet thing, and then she's like, "Oh my God, Diana, please, you gotta help me!" And then Diana was like, "You are never gonna learn, are you, or whatnot? Like, it's over and everything." And then all of a sudden, Diana takes off her little sling that's covering her arm, and all of a sudden we see little baby Diana Hippolyta and hooks her up with this super Terminator 2 arm and shit. And then she goes and she's hovering over Christine. She's like, "You gotta help me." And then she's like, "You ain't gonna learn." And then she goes and she reaches down with that robotic arm and she chokes the fucking daylights out of Christina's ass, and blood and shit sprays everywhere. And then I don't know, she's walk off with the she walk off with the damn vampire thing, the vampire pet thing, and start screaming all in the moonlight. I'm like, this was so fucking weird and good at the same time. And that's how it ended, y'all. But there's a couple things that I wanted to touch on real quick. When Christina did saying that she killed Ruby, I don't think she actually killed Ruby. What I think she did was either put Ruby in a coma or something, because she has Ruby in a bed, because it did one of those flashes. We see Ruby in a bed, like how she got William and that other white lady. She got Ruby in another bed in a coma, what it looks like, the same way. So I hope they go and they go to that house, Christina's house, and look for Ruby and look for her body at least and try to find her, because I don't think Christina actually had the heart to actually kill her baby like that. She just wanted to. I mean, their relationship is over, obviously, but and Christina dead at this point. She dead. So, and another thing that we see in the flashes in between of what was going on and behind the scenes that they didn't show us right away was it was one more thing that happened. Dang, I can't remember. I'm gonna have to write it at the bottom or something, because I forgot. Well, y'all, I don't remember. So sorry. I'm gonna remember later, but I'm gonna go ahead and end this video, and I'll write it down below in the comments. So how did y'all feel about the whole thing? Like, do y'all think, well, did it do it for y'all? Like, this was crazy, because I'm just trying to think of how the next season's gonna go. I mean, Tick is dead, Christina's dead. Oh, that's the last thing I remember now. See, I knew if I start talking about something else, I would remember. What Tick did with the binding of everything, he made it so no more white people could use magic. And I'm like, that's great. But I mean, it could be some black people who out here using magic for bad too. So I don't know if he made it specific of who could use magic, or if it's just like only white people can't use it. So I guess that's what his mama all of them, the ancestors, was saying, that he was going to save them all. I'm like, he didn't save himself, but he had to sacrifice himself to save everybody else. So I guess it was what it was. But y'all, where do y'all think the next season is going to go? Because so much stuff, and there was so much adventure that happened in this. Like, every episode was just so, they tied together, but they were so different. Like, we went back in time, we went to the future, we went on a whole world, like a whirlwind. Don't mind the dogs outside, they barking and crazy. These dogs always fighting outside my house. Sound crazy. But anyway, we went on a whole crazy ride. And if y'all haven't seen that SNL skit featuring Issa Rae, that aired on Saturday Night Live, it was hilarious, because it was talking about Lovecraft Country, and I definitely commented on it, like, this is me trying to explain to my viewers Lovecraft Country, especially people who haven't watched it before. It is a crazy trip with the sci-fi and witches and afros and aliens. It's really hard to explain to folks, because that's why even I feel weird explaining it and reviewing it. This is like on the only show that I feel like, okay, am I saying this stuff right? And are people gonna get what I'm saying when I'm saying it? Especially if they've never seen the show. Hopefully y'all watching it with me. If not, check it out. Or if you're just entertained by me, it's a really good watch. But yeah, again, I appreciate everybody who's been rocking with me and whatnot and watching it. And what do y'all think gonna happen next season? Let me know down below. All right, love you. Peace. Bye.